During my visit to THU in 2016, one of the presentations I attended was Kevin Lima's talk about the color symbolism in animated film, and specifically his color direction on Disney's Tarzan. Kevin walked us through how he and the crew had intentionally used the color yellow throughout the film to represent dangers or fears for Tarzan to overcome. This opened doors in my head for how the intentional use of color could link concepts/ideas for the audience and weave its way through the narrative as a means to signpost them over the course of the story. In a similar way that music composers can write leitmotifs into the soundtrack to link characters, arcs, and themes into scenes, something I appreciated in Sideways' video, The Sound of the Spider-Verse. We thought it would be both fascinating and fun to have a closer look at another of Kevin Lima's films, and in particular one of Swifty's absolute favourites, a Goofy movie. Much of the movie centres around Goofy trying to impress upon Max the kinds of values he thinks Max has abandoned, while having fun and reconnecting with his son. This is shown with Blue. The main crux of this is that Max has uninvolved Goofy from his life and goals. Gold and yellow. We're going to explore where that is represented visually in the film. The film opens immediately on this dreamscape of two opposing color spaces, the blue above and the golden orange yellow below. A lot of the film's main conflict is described in these two main color themes, but they're not linked to any particular character. Instead, they're linked to the relationship between our main characters, Max and his father Goofy. Gold or yellow is used to link concepts or objects that Max thinks he wants, whereas blue is often used when showing potential obstacles that would interfere with what Max believes he wants. Pink throughout the movie has connotations and links to love or affection, none more strongly than with Roxanne, Max's high school crush. The pink is a lot more in tune with and harmonizes with the gold-yellow hues of what Max believes he wants. A sudden shift in the whole palette lets us immediately know an emotional change has occurred. We're seeing a reaction shot and we're feeling that tug from one state to the next. Here, Max's ideals are matched and contrasted against his inner fears. Max is afraid of becoming his father, and this fear follows him throughout the movie. I don't think it's a coincidence that Powerline's main outfit is a bright yellow, and that Max adopts a Powerline disguise as a means of impressing Roxanne that day. One sequence that I thought was particularly interesting in its use of color reinforcing the compositional choices was the sequence where Max is waiting to see the principal after his stunt as Powerline. Here we can see Max is surrounded by and trapped by this cool blue shadow and framed within the filing cabinet next to him. The gold space is at first separate from him, but as he interacts with Roxanne, he moves more and more into this gold and yellow space. It shows a change in his state of mind and his courage to actively seek out what he wants. Here we can see that the principal is going to be in direct conflict with Max. We love the prison bar motifs here, as it's literally barring paths across what would be a golden patch of light in the frame. He's calling Goofy to give him a biased account of what Max did earlier, and not so subtly suggest that Max is doomed to become a delinquent, none of which is accurate. Here's the sequence where Goofy listens to frightening news from Max's principal. Goofy is being framed in purple here. I would link this purple to Goofy's love for his son. I love how the value lowers and the colors desaturate as Goofy absorbs and internalizes the news. And then the shining beacon of blue. Something big is occurring and it is going to be in direct conflict with Max's goals. An avatar for Goofy's big idea, a fishing trip to connect with his son, like he did with his own father. We see Goofy's emotional state here reflected in his surroundings, punctuated by the flashes of blue. Oh gosh, conflict is coming. Goofy returns to a happy state where his new plan born out of love, purple, for his son. This is Goofy trying to forcefully impose his idea of a fun family vacation on his son. It really tickled me that in these two shots, Goofy has tried to create a mini version of his car in Max's outfit. Much of the film takes place as a road trip, with Goofy attempting to relive his youth and the dear memories he made with his own father, and share those with Max, who at this point misunderstands Goofy's intentions and sees everything as an obstacle to spending a summer with Roxanne. Overwhelmed by his father's attempts to reconcile what he believes is a delinquent son on the cusp of making terrible mistakes, Max is all but resigned to his misery. The palette here is overwhelmingly blue, where Goofy has inadvertently squashed his son's hopes of making it to the concert. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the concept of vibrant red, representing danger in the film. Red is a clear danger palette like this fella here. The next sequence is one of my favorites, where Max accidentally gains access to the road trip map and is presented with an alluring choice. change it to suit his own ends, or leave it be? The scene leaves heavily on three main colours: gold, blue, and now red with its sense of risk and danger. The yellow pencil feels like a deliberate choice, linked again to what Max thinks he needs in order to attain his goals. However, the whole scene is bathed in this red light, signifying that what Max is considering is dangerous. It will put the relationship with his father in jeopardy. Ultimately, he chooses to alter the map. Often when Goofy is feeling his care for Max mixing with his fear for his safety, the palette shifts to blue. Here, Pete is revealing to Goofy that he knows Max hasn't been altogether honest. There is beautiful storytelling in this shot of Goofy discovering Max has altered the map. In the foreground, we have a physical manifestation of Max's hopes and dreams, but Goofy is excluded from them by being pushed small in the frame, and still drenched in those cold blues. Goofy feels even more excluded and distanced by and from his son. Max and Goofy reconcile their differences when Max owns up to why he changed the map, and they both see eye to eye for the first time. The goal that Max aimed for is just out of reach above them, and when they enter into the cave, Max is leaving that behind to be honest with his father, and in doing so emerge on the other side with newfound possibilities. We know deep down that Goofy is going to be okay in this sequence because he's moving from being an obstacle here, blue, of the top of the waterfall, to being a part of Max's goals, gold and orange, of the falls. Goofy is being welcomed back into Max's life, and is then resolved with some father-son love and affection. The pair then set off to attempt to meet Powerline on stage, and while the stage feels strange and unfamiliar as Max lets go and has fun with his father, the spectrum of colour moves to adopt all the palettes to show he can be himself around Goofy. Thanks for watching this colour analysis of a Goofy movie. I might be completely off the mark with this, but I thought it was an interesting way of thinking to share, and will hopefully inspire some of you to take a fresh look at the colours you're using in your own story, and where you can communicate meaning with them. Thank you. Is there any particular movie that you absolutely love the colour on, and would like us to look into in more depth? Let us know in the comments below and we'll have a look. We love watching movies.